Skyline. Sure. I'll be the sun.
All right. Everybody see us? We good? We have to come up to the mic. Good? Yeah. All right, so should I just start talking about yesterday, or how do you want to do this?
That's fine, or do you guys have questions? You guys start with questions.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name's Steve Mason. I am the fire chief for the City of Wilmington Fire Department. I am joined by Assistant Chief Chris Walker, who is our fire marshal, Assistant Chief Derek Mickler, who is our chief of operations, and Lieutenant Greg Willett from the Wilmington Police Department. I think you guys probably know the general story, but yesterday afternoon, a little after 11 o'clock, we responded to a motor vehicle accident that had struck a building and ruptured a gas line. This was a commercial building. As a result of the accident, the building was quickly filled with gas from a 2-inch line. Initial crews arrived on scene. The vehicle had left the scene. They were going through our standard response protocols of making sure the building, the first and second floors, had been evacuated, that no one was in there, and we were actively monitoring for flammable limit levels of natural gas inside the building. A couple of our crews immediately began detecting what we call action or alert level natural gas or lower explosive limit readings in the building. They radioed that to command that they would be evacuating. Another unit inside the building was also reporting elevated levels of gas in the building. Shortly after that, the explosion occurred. What was expressed to me by some of the guys that I was visiting with in the hospital yesterday, that there were 2 explosions. I don't really know how to verify that. I don't really know if that was necessarily the case. It certainly was possible. What could have caused that? That building was being pressurized with gas coming out of that 2-inch line at about 60 psi. So the damage to the gas piping, the regulatory piece of that piping, if you will, that takes it from street pressure to a low pressure going into the building, was damaged. So unbeknownst to our guys at the time, we had that building was filling up with gas very quickly. And eventually, after the explosion occurred, that high pressure gas line was also fueling the fire, which, if you saw the video, you saw how intense it was and how long it took us to get that under control. But essentially, we had a natural gas fed fire for I don't know, an hour, 2 hours after that. But our hazardous materials team, along with North Carolina or Piedmont Natural Gas, we worked together on scene. We were able to get that leak shut down, and then that kind of converted things over to a little more manageable scene. At that time, we ended up having a commercial structure fire. So we were on scene until about 7 p.m. last night. The fire marshal's office and the police department have performed an investigation of the building. We do have some updated information today with regards to injuries. Late yesterday afternoon, when the Wilmington Police Department's bomb squad arrived and assessed the building, they recommended that we send all of the folks who were exposed to the blast to be examined for concussion injuries. So that resulted in us sending 3 additional firefighters to be checked out. They were all treated and released with non-life-threatening injuries. They were cleared on the concussion protocols. And we also had a later report in the afternoon of one of our firefighters injuring their shoulder. So that brings our injured total to 5. And of course, the most serious injury to one of our firefighters received burns on both of his hands, 2nd, 3rd degree burns, is currently undergoing a procedure in Chapel Hill to address his injuries. That's essentially the gist of it. I know you probably all know most of that, if not all of that. So at this time, we'll be glad to take any questions that you may have. Before we do that, can we get you one more step for us? Thank you.
What kind of gas was pumping out of that gas tank?
Natural gas.
Just natural gas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Natural gas.
What caused it to inflame like that? Was it just the pressure of it? Up in the building?
I'm going to let Chief Walker address that.
Any number of ignition sources inside the building. It could have been HVAC unit when with the building pressurized like that with gas, with the natural gas. Could have been something as simple as a light switch. Any kind of spark, any kind of electrical charge could have ignited that.
Did you see that there was a building that was under construction? Was this gas line like secured as they would have been, like like a typical building that had been completed or whatever?
That building had undergone a significant renovation. In fact, the fire marshal's office had given them a certificate of occupancy. I think they were scheduled to open on first week of September. There was some construction workers in the building at the time, but that building was pretty much in good shape, ready to be opened. So we don't think that had anything to do with it. It was certainly a result of the accident.
Is there a damage estimate? Dollar number?
I don't know.
You haven't been able to do that yet? I didn't think so. Yeah, it will be substantial. That building is a total loss. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that driver was able to take out that gas line essentially by veering out of his lane. Was the gas line that was ruptured exposed in any way? Was there? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Was there?
Sure. If you ride by there and look at it, you can still see it. It's damaged, but it's still there. But it's essentially about 35 feet off the road.
32 feet off.
And it is connected right to the side of the building. So, it's certainly possible that, it could be struck. And that's unfortunately what happened. But yeah, it was exposed enough to where, given the right circumstances, it could be damaged like that.
Is that normal? Do you caution against this? I know you had no control over where that was placed, but
Right.
in the future, how would you respond like this?
Well, there is you want to talk about the fire
Sure.
code and how that relates to how that stuff works?
Sure. So the gas is related to basically is regulated by the Department of Agriculture. Doesn't really fall under the fire code. However, we do utilize like NFPA 58, but the standard for vehicular protection against impact, collision or what have you, is actually 10 feet of separation, and would be in 35 feet. The lines were in compliance as far as their distance from the roadway.
My question would be from Lieutenant Willis. So we heard in court that this individual was under the influence of nitrous oxide. Can you tell us anything else about what he was doing, or what condition he law enforcement needs to do that?
As far as any kind of specifics, if they said nitrous oxide, that's what I go with. But so what he was doing is commonly referred to as whippets. We do see that from time to time in impaired driving cases and in traffic collisions. It's where people are doing anything from huffing keyboard cleaner to CO2 cartridges, things like that. Whatever displaces the oxygen from the brain gives them a high, and it obviously impairs their ability to their cognitive ability and their ability to operate any kind of heavy machinery, which a car is. And so as far as specifics on what Mr. Beach was using, I do not know, but I do know it fits the criteria for huffing.
Does this change anything for Wilmington Fire moving forward when you respond to calls about natural gas? I know you guys recently posted on Facebook about an incident that happened in the 80s that changed the way crews respond to incidents. What does this change, if anything?
Well, at this point, we haven't conducted what we call a post-incident analysis. So Chief Mickler, along with our safety officers, will get together. They will collect all of the information that we have about the scene, from the 911 tapes to looking at our response times, our deployment, and basically getting all the companies together and going through a minute-by-minute reaccount of the situation. And what we will do in that process is, one, identify, did we operate the way we train? Are we operating within our guidelines? Did we do everything that we should have done in order to mitigate this incident? And from that, we'll determine, are there lessons learned? How do we do better next time? How do we get better if this event occurs again? We run gas leaks on a weekly basis. It is a very routine call for us, and this call actually started out very much like that. So we are essentially very experienced with running these calls and doing our atmospheric monitoring and securing the scene, and provided protective hose lines when necessary. And so, to answer your question, at this point, I don't know that we've identified anything at this point that we think we need to address or change with regards to our response policies. But I'll certainly let Chief Mickler chime in on that. That's his shop.
Sure. So we've definitely changed stuff since that major accident occurred several years ago, even including how we show up in our gear. So we're very fortunate that our firefighters were in full gear. They were on respiratory as well too, so they had their mask on, they were breathing off their tanks, and because of that, that limited any danger to their respiratory tract as well too when the explosion took place. But the men and women still have a job that they have to do, and that's to be here for our citizens and to go out when we get a call and to make sure the building is evacuated. This was such a unique situation in which not only was the gas line ruptured and hit, but it was actually pushed into the inside of the building, and so that 60 psi of gas was just pumping directly in there, and that was an unknown to us when we first arrived on scene. And I guess our first priority is just making sure everybody is evacuated out of that building, and within minutes of them getting to the second floors when the explosion took place. They also carried with them and had in place atmospheric monitoring, very similar to the ones that even the gas company carries, that are high-end level gas monitoring that reads parts per million and reads, as Chief Mason mentioned, as far as the lower explosive limits. And as soon as those triggered on the meters themselves, within seconds is when the explosion actually took place. So it was very rapid change.
Those firefighters were on the second floor.
That is correct.
Explosion. Could any of you speak to, maybe you've spoken to any of those injured firefighters? What are they saying about that? That's pretty serious.
Chief, I did not mention the Mayday. When I gave the overview of the situation, one of the critical elements of this whole response and our reaction to it was the Mayday. So maybe I think if you address the Mayday situation, that might answer your question.
So first crews arriving on scene, again, their first objective is to make sure that the scene is safe and that we can get anybody evacuated out of the structure. And so they're going to go in there, as I just spoke about, with their meters and just make sure the building is cleared. When that took place and they saw the explosion and felt the first loud bang happen, they initiated an immediate mayday. And so that clears all radio traffic, and that allows the commander on scene to immediately get things into action to make sure we can locate those individuals and safely send crews in there to grab those individuals and pull them out. In this situation, as we were getting folks ready to go inside, they were able to self-rescue, but some of our injuries took place because of this. With them all being on the second floor, they had to bail out of the second floor windows. If you've had a chance to show the pictures of the actual building itself, the entire thing exploded. And so when they came out of that second floor is where some of the shoulder injuries and the knee injuries and the sprains and things like that took place.
Just in terms of timeline, y'all knew like immediately that there was a gas leak, but you just didn't know at first, like there was a high pressure situation inside the building. Is that right?
That is also accurate. We knew that there was a impact that took place to the gas device itself, to the meter, but to what level it took place. Something else that may have not been shared up to this point is that within the building itself, they had 3 large oxygen tanks, 120 gallons apiece. So a total of 360 gallons of oxygen were on the second floor as well, in similar close proximity to where that gas leak took place. And so after the fact, we were able to look at those tanks and see that the hoses were also burned off. And so that also helped to accelerate and feed the explosion and the fire as well too. What's that?
Where are those tanks for?
That'd be a question for the veterinarian type establishment, but I'm sure something to do with their medical assessments and their needs that they would be doing for the animals and such.
Have you spoken to any of the injured responders, family members? Have they said anything to you or reached out?
Absolutely. So we've been in close contact with all of those folks. I'd first like to just start with just sharing our appreciation for this amazing community of ours. Folks throughout the entire state and even beyond the state of North Carolina that have just outpouring of just love and care for our folks. So we appreciate all of those folks doing that. The men and women of this organization love everything that they do about being a firefighter. And when they show up every day, any given day, they could be going to any type of emergency like that. And so when that happens here locally to our folks in Wilmington, it's a huge impact. And so, yes, we have spoke to those individuals, including the one that's now at the UNC Burn Center. My hope is that he just got out of surgery here in the past hour, but we did have the chance last night to see him before they transported him up through Vitalink to the UNC Chapel Hill. And all things being considered, he was in good spirits. His wife was there, his brother was there, His parents are up there as well too. So we have a lot of folks involved, and those that also were released last night, we've been staying in constant contact with them. Secondary to those folks, this can also be a significant mental impact to even the folks that physically were not injured on this call. And so we also have things in place to make sure they're also okay, and even after they got off shift this morning, that they remain mentally okay as well too with that.
Talk about that protocol for bringing people back after such a big incident like this.
Absolutely. So it's multi-part. So our organization has really established and set the lead with peer support and making sure that we look after our own, because if our own are not healthy, then it's really hard for them to be successful when they come to work. And so we have an incredible peer support program where we actually have peer support dogs that are on shift and even ride the fire trucks, and they're assigned to credentialed and certified peer support individuals that can come in. So we brought those in. Our partnership and collaboration with Paws for People are bringing in the puppies to help to kind of like de-escalate and just try to like help folks get to the other side mentally of those impacts. We'll be working with the Public Safety Division for the state of North Carolina in the next week or so to bring in their critical incident stress debriefing team as well too. So it's multifaceted as far as all those components coming together that we really pay attention to and make sure all of our folks have all the needs that they have fulfilled for that.
How would you rate your response? We're only one day out, of course, but in general, Chief, how would you rate the response?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that the men and women from the Wilmington Fire Department performed exceptionally well yesterday. As a fire chief, the worst words that you can hear come across the radio are Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. I was here in the building when I heard that call come in. I heard the panic in the voices of the young man that transmitted the Mayday rather. My mind immediately goes to a bunch of different dark places about what could happen and what has possibly happened, and not understanding at the time what was in the building and whether it was still vacant, and how many casualties or possible fatalities do we have. And so all of those things were rushing through my mind, but everybody immediately sprung to action. We were essentially in Rebecca's office when that radio traffic came across. The captain that was in the office with us immediately came down to Engine 1, got his crew. They responded ahead of the dispatch. The station was emptied in a matter of seconds. I reached out to our partner with New Hanover County Battalion 3 and said, all right, the city's, we're drained on resources. We need to get the city back covered as well as the county. Our incredible partnership, automatic aid partnership that we have with New Hanover County Fire Rescue helped us get things back up and running. And from there, everything just started clicking into place. Our law enforcement partners were there and playing their part. We had support from the Office of the State Fire Marshal. They had building engineers that were there helping us assess the integrity of the building and how we could send our people into different parts of the building to get it extinguished safely. The emergency department at New Hanover embraced. It's never a day off. It's never a day off.
So we're gonna have to move, right?
All right, good. So because of the partnerships that we have with all of our local agencies, I made a quick call to the 911 center. Made a quick call to the 911 center to get in touch with our emergency management coordinator or director at New Hanover County to get our rehab bus out there to take care of our men and women on the fire scene. We quickly established an we were able to quickly establish a command post with the help of the Wilmington Police Department. They brought their command vehicle out. EMS was also able to bring a few units out on scene to monitor and to take care of our injured firefighters, but they were also there with their rehab bus to also take care of the firefighters who remained on scene throughout the day. We were able to take and put a lot of resources on the scene and tackle this situation in a very quick manner, and that's a testament to not only how we are staffed, equipped, and deployed at the Wilmington Fire Department, but the partners, the collaboration that we maintain with our other fire and emergency police, law enforcement partners in the community allowed us to perform exceptionally well. I'm sure that there will be things that we identify that where we can do better, that we can do a better job of, understanding our buildings, understanding the risks, and look at ways that we maybe even be able to respond safer. But from what I saw, what I heard yesterday, monitoring the radio and the entire situation, the reports that I was getting back, the comments that came from our partnering agencies, I believe that this organization and this community handled that situation extremely well. There is no doubt in my mind that we could have lost some members yesterday. And so the fact that we only had 4 or 5 people injured yesterday, somebody was looking after us. But at the end of the day, this job is still very dangerous. We train very hard. We prepare daily to confront situations like this, and we know that this job can take your life in a certain circumstance. But we go to work, we protect our community, and we give 110% every day, understanding and knowing how dangerous this job can be. And thankfully, yesterday, we only had 5 people that were injured. If you saw the explosion, if you felt the magnitude of it, you understand how just deadly that could be. One of our young men who was in the hospital yesterday being evaluated for concussion injuries is a 10-year veteran. And he says, "Chief, I spent a lot of time in the military. I've been around a whole lot of explosions." He was like, "That was a legit explosion." And so I just was like, I'm glad that you're here and in good spirits and doing well. But I see that video. I've seen it 100 times already, and it just makes my heart sink every time because of what could have happened.
I just have one more question for you, Will. So how was police initially able to apprehend this?
So upon our initial response, we were dispatched to a hit and run involving a gas leak. So we naturally knew fire was responding as well. Because there were citizens on scene, some of whom called 911, we were able to get a good vehicle description. I want to say we were even able to get a tag, license plate number. And so when that happened, a be on the lookout or a BOLO was put out. So the vehicle was located by another patrol officer who was not involved in this call at all, in an area we call District 2 in the 3100 block of Market Street. So it was good police work, being on the lookout for a damaged vehicle that fit that description and putting 2 and 2 together.
How do you all determine the bond for Mr. B?
So bond is determined by a magistrate. The police department, law enforcement in North Carolina in general doesn't have any influence on bond. Magistrates will typically look at the person's history. That's really the extent I can go into that. But law enforcement, we don't have anything to do with the determination of somebody's bond.
Is that everything? All right. Thank you guys.
So much, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate your interest.